Hi, welcome back to Bible Basics. And today I'm continuing, I think, with part 5, and we're talking about the coming. Again, this is one of my short little videos that I am dealing with individual, separate things. I'm looking at my notes here, of course. Individual teachings, I should say, about the second coming that are very important. And I'm just doing a generalized and not some type of deep exegetical, deep study or anything. That can come later. But today we want to talk about two things, I think. The first part is when. When does he come? Well, the Bible is specific that when he comes, there are two things that must happen first, according to Thessalonians. The first is, of course, he comes to expose the beast and to kill him. And at his coming also is precluded by, first, the revealing of the beast, who he is, and secondly, apostasy, worldwide apostasy within the Christian church. Many people will abandon the faith and go on to doctrines of demons and such. And he says, when you see these things begin to happen, and I'm playing with words there, when you see the beast rise to power and all of that, that is when you know that season is upon you. Now, he never gives signs like a thief who comes in the middle of the night. No thief announces and says, hey, you're going to have signs that I'm coming. I think I've already talked about that a little bit. So nobody knows when he's going to come. There is no set time. And this is based upon, and I'm going to make the full argument here and close this out. The whole idea and the basis of the whole preterist problem is that the Olivet is what you use, Son of Man coming on clouds, to prove that second coming has to happen within that generation. And of course the problem is, and this is something that's been addressed many times, and I still haven't found one honest preterist to actually deal with these verses, but when Jesus says Son of Man coming on clouds, which he used also in Matthew 26, Matthew 5, when he talks about the sun standing there will not see death, they'll see the coming of the Son of Man. In Caiaphas, you'll see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand and coming in on the clouds. What Jesus is quoting there is from Daniel 17 and 7, 13, and 14. In that verse, it says, the Son of Man is coming to the clouds, and he is coming and being presented before the Ancient of Days. He's being presented before him. And this is a picture of his ascension where in the previous verses 9 and 10, God is sitting on the throne. He's the Ancient of Days being described right there, first of all. He's the one who's sitting on the throne where the judgment happens. And it is Christ who ascends to that throne, who, from John 5, of course, earns the right, because he is the Son of Man, to have judgment and to judge people. And so because he ascended, was killed, and died, he is ascended to the heavens, and now he sends judgment that comes in the form of AD 70. The Daniel 7, 13, 14 passage is not a second coming passage. The context is about judgment. And I've heard plenty of preterists declare, Adam, Marshak, a lot of people declare that when Jesus or anybody was quoting from the Old Testament, they were using the context from which that quote is being used as the context for why he is quoting it and what it's being talked about. For the Joel, in these last days you will see your sons and daughters prophesy and all that. That was fulfilled, of course, and that's the context it's taken in there. It's talking about those last days, in the last days. I won't get further into that. But the point of the fact is that Daniel then is not about a second coming. There are many other passages that Jesus could have quoted from, especially in Zechariah, that were about a second coming, but that's not the reference at all that he's talking about. And Don Preston, and let me make this very, very clear. When Don Preston in his book, We Shall Meet Him in the Air, if you have read his book, then you know that his whole argument is that the Son of Man coming is not about Jesus personally coming down. It's just like what God did in the Old Testament when he came. It was an army that came in his place and executed judgment. That's exactly what we're saying. That's what we agree with. That's exactly how parousia is being used. And the Son of Man coming is being used by Matthew in that Olivet to talk about the judgment coming. Now, you cannot say that is the second coming. That is the problem, because Paul describes the nature of his coming. And do I want to deal with that right now and give Joel Sexton some fuel and fire to with our debate coming up? No, I'm going to leave it right there at that, and then I will go on to some of the other subjects, and I will leave that open so I can mess with his mind a little bit. The debate is coming up January 3rd and 4th in the evenings. I believe that's going to be a Monday, Tuesday night kind of a thing. And of course, if it's not, it'll be during the week or whatever. I'll be available for it. I work in the evenings, but I'll be there for this, right? And it will be over 2 nights that we will have this full discussion. I'll be starting with the affirmative, and then the next night he'll start with his affirmative, and so it'll go both ways, and about an hour and a half long, so it's not exactly too long and all that. But we'll be having that debate, and that's coming up. Along with one other announcement that I want to make is that next Monday night, not Tuesday, because I don't want to interrupt David Gates's, his tube, which he does not engage people on Facebook, obviously. But I will be going live, and I should set the time for it about 7 o'clock my time, Central Standard Time, 7 o'clock live. I will be coming on live to answer questions about the book, about middleism, or anything else, and try to do this live. I'll be by myself. I don't have all the software or anything. I'm not doing it through anything else but through YouTube Live. And if I'm able to see the comments and things, of course, that is what I want to respond to. If I have to do it Facebook Live, I'll do that too. Whatever way provides the best opportunity for me to read comments and deal with them specifically, because I want to talk with you in answering the questions and things like this in my position. And with that said, I think I will close this out. Tell you have a good night. Talk to you later. Hasta la vista, baby.